Hey guys, and welcome to another video. Today we're gonna be looking at the iPad Pro with the M1 chip and the iPad Air 5 with the M1 chip, and hopefully I'll help you decide as to which iPad you should go for. So let's talk about the differences between the two. So the iPad Air 5 has a 10.9-inch screen and the iPad Pro has a 11-inch screen. Both devices are fit with an M1 chip, and in terms of differences, there are 120 Hz on this one and 60 Hz on the iPad Air 5. So this one has ProMotion, which makes it much more smoother to use and scroll pages, whereas this one, the iPad Air 5, it's less smoother, let's just say it like that. You may not be able to see it, but I think the bezels are thinner on the iPad Pro compared to the iPad Air 5. Now, in terms of speakers, the iPad Air 5 does have 4 holes, but I think speakers are at the bottom, and I'm not sure what the top ones are for. Whereas on the iPad Pro, you've got quad speakers, so wherever you're watching YouTube or listening to music, it'll be much clearer on that. Now both iPads have center stage. If you don't know what that is, it's basically when you're on a FaceTime call or a video call, Zoom meeting, whichever one it is, your camera will be focusing on you regardless of whether you move or not. There's also a difference in the cameras. So on the iPad Air, you've got a 12 megapixel camera. You've got the same on the iPad Pro as well, but you've also got a 10 megapixel ultra wide camera. The USB-C cable on the iPad Air is a standard USB-C cable, whereas on the iPad Pro it supports Thunderbolt 4, so you get faster transfer speeds as well. Both devices works with the Apple Pencil, and they also work with the Apple Magic Smart Keyboard, which is this, and I'll show you how it looks on both devices right now. So I opted for the black Magic Keyboard, and I got this on sale from Amazon. So this is how it looks, and I'll show you the back with the camera bump. So this is purple on the black Smart Keyboard. It is really useful, to be fair. I was playing around with it yesterday. You've got your cursor here. You can swipe with the 4 fingers like that. Keyboard, so if I just type stuff there, it is quite nice. And then you've got your typical swipe up feature there. One thing I also forgot to mention, iPad Air has Touch ID, whereas the iPad Pro has Face ID, which is a very big key difference. And this is the iPad Pro with the black Magic Smart Keyboard. Just show you around. And here's the camera bump as well, similar to what's on the iPhones. Also, the Magic Smart Keyboard has an extra USB-C port here, so you can charge the device through that whilst keeping your iPad USB-C slot free. Now, the big difference in terms of storage size is the fact that the iPad Air starts off at 64 gigabytes and can be transformed up to 256, whereas the iPad Pro starts at 128 and can be configured up to 2 terabytes, which costs a lot more. Now, 64 gigabytes on an iPad Air for storage, I think it's pretty poor. I think it should start at 128 gigabytes. If I show you here, this is just set up straight from brand new. Not transferred anything. You've got 50 gigabytes available already, so that's 14 gigabytes with all these applications pre-installed. But removing apps like Pages, GarageBand, iMovie and all that stuff, you'll save a lot more space. Both devices, as mentioned before, are equipped with the brand new M1 chip, which makes life easy on the iPad when you're doing demanding tasks. However, the iPad Pro can be configured up to 16 gigabytes RAM, whereas the iPad Air is set at 8 gigabytes. So initially, I'm coming from the iPad Air 4, which is on the left, and I was going to upgrade to the iPad Air 5, which is on the far right. But I found a much better deal for the iPad Pro, and obviously with 64 gigabytes being too low, if you opt to go for the 256 gigabytes, if you spend an extra 50 quid more, you get the iPad Pro at 128 gig. Now obviously if you shop around you can find the iPad Pro for a bit cheaper, but I found one for £600 in grade A condition. Now the iPad Air 5, obviously I can use uni days discount, so I got this at £529. I'm essentially spending £70-80 more and just using the iPad Pro, which is a much faster device, more smoother for me. It's got a lot more features such as ProMotion, quad speakers. It's got a bigger display just by a bit. Honestly, getting it alone for the 120 hertz screen is enough. It's just so smooth compared to the choppiness on the iPad Air. As I said, you can't see it on the screen, but it does make a big difference. Now, if you're choosing between an iPad Air or an iPad Pro, honestly, I would go for an iPad Pro just because of the fact, if you shop around, you can find one for around under 650 quid. Now, the iPad Air starts at 569, so an extra 100 quid, maybe even less, and you could probably find an iPad Pro. It just makes more sense. If you've got an iPad Air 4 and upgrading to an iPad Air 5, I honestly don't think there's any point. iPad Air 4 works pretty well for me, apart from the M1 chip, which is pretty much the only upgrade. The device runs smoothly for me. It's not really giving me any problems. It's just obviously with the iPad Pro, me being able to find that, I opted for that. Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll try my best to answer them. But long story short, if you're looking to get an iPad Air 5, don't just go for the iPad Air Pro. You'll probably find one for a cheaper price that Apple currently sell for. As I said, eBay, Computer Exchange, Gumtree, if you just search around, you can find one for around under £650. That's all for today's video. Thank you for watching. Leave a like and press that subscribe button.